What I do for my hobby is I'm a philosopher. It's hard to explain exactly what I do. I used to talk to people in a kind of a very small get-together sort of seminar. Just how different the world will be when you look at things, through a different set of eyes. It's hard to explain that to people. I have nothing to sell you. Literally nothing to sell you. I don't want to teach you anything. I don't want to make you think any different way. Okay, so I was talking about Taoism. Okay, Taoism really goes into a lot of information about taming the ego and things of that nature. Now, the ego is like your inner child. It's the thing that always wakes up and tells you every morning, I want this, I want to be warm, I want to be fed, I want to get a car, I want to get this or that, and we, like general idiots, will sometimes run around going and driving ourselves crazy trying to fill this list. And even if somehow miraculously we filled this entire list, you would find that you wake up the next morning, ego says, hey sucker, nails another list to your head and says, now I want this. And we just keep on doing that and keep on doing that. It's just like a little child that is actually telling you, I want this, I want this. And you know what happens if you give a child everything he asks for and give it no discipline and then structure. It becomes spoiled, and that will affect you. I've studied everything from Western to Eastern philosophy. I've more or less settled on the Eastern philosophy on a lot of things. It makes a lot of sense to me, and it's exceptionally different from the way I and most people in the West have been raised. So naturally, I'm going to go against the stream. But in any event, what I'll be showing you is some of the basics of what I go over in Eastern philosophy. Which there was a farmer who had a wife and she was pregnant. He promised her originally that he would take her into the city, which back in feudal China, that was a big trip, big to do. He would take her into the city and get her the best doctors no matter what when the time came to have the baby. Well, this happened right around crop sowing time. And as a result of that happening, he wasn't going to be able to sow his crops. So everyone was like, oh, this is horrible news, this is horrible, bad luck, man. And he's like, no, we'll see. It's not good luck, it's not bad luck, it's just luck. So he goes in the city, takes the wife there, and everything goes really, really bad. In fact, if he hadn't brought her to the city, she would have died, he would have lost the kid as well, everything would have been just horrible for her. So everyone's like, well, how fortunate that you happen to have her in the city with the best doctors and everything. And he's like, well, we'll see. So time moves on, and he hasn't had his crops sown here, and he's starving. He doesn't know how he's going to get this food and stuff, or get money to even buy food for his family. And it's about that time that a horse merchant comes out of the city and is looking around for somewhere to put all of his horses. Wealthy man. He sees all these plowed fields, those aren't going to work, but here, lo and behold, there's one field that has no crop sown in it, no rows to trip up the horses, nothing. Buys the land off the guy and hires him to work it. And everyone's like, wow, how fortunate, you just won the lottery, now you're rich and everything's running well and you got all these horses that you're working with this guy for, this is great. And he's like, well, it's not good news, it's not bad news, it's just news. So, time goes on again. His son has grown up a little bit, he's working with the horses and training the horses. There's a terrible accident and falls off a horse and gets paralyzed, breaks his back, and he's paralyzed. And everyone's like, oh, that's just terrible news, it's bad news. And he's like, nope, it's not good news, it's not bad news, it's just news. So, more time moves on, and we have one of the Chinese warlords is coming through and is conscripting everybody and bringing in basically any able-bodied man. Well, they don't take his kid because, well, he's paralyzed, he's no good. The man's too old to go off into the army. Everybody else in the village that's able to is being marched off to what's probably a certain death. And everyone's like, well, that's great. You know, what was just a little while ago, you know, complete paralysis wasn't a bad thing, is actually what's giving him life. One of the things in Buddhism, separate from Taoism, is the concept of what people try to do to maintain a stasis in life. People don't like change. They don't want things to change. They don't ever want it to change, and they'll hold on to it as long as they can, and they don't realize that it's killing it. In Buddhism, you go on about nirvana. Some people misinterpret nirvana as like the Buddhist heaven, and it's not. And some people think it's a state of being kind of doped up, and it's not. Nirvana, based on various etymologies, is actually to exhale, to expire. When you hold your breath, just like if you're holding on to life, trying to keep it in one state and only one state, you actually lose your breath. You hold your breath, you try and hold it in, and what happens? You start to suffocate. Suffocating isn't going to do anybody any good. And nirvana is that point at which you get that release, that exhale. You know, it's just kind of like, it's relaxing sort of, and finally just being as clear as you've ever been. Zen Buddhism is a concept of letting go. There's not a lot you can say about it without actually destroying the meaning for it. Because as soon as you try and say what Zen specifically is, it's kind of just gone. It's just effervescent like that. So it's kind of like Wile E. Coyote sitting on the edge of a cliff, and that last piece of the cliff breaks off and he falls down with it. And most people run about in life and they want something to hold on to, this religion that tells them, well, this is what happens when I die, or this is why I'm alive, and this is why I'm doing this, rather than just living for the experience of living. And it's like Wile E. Coyote holding on to that rock, he's plummeting towards the ground, and what good is that going to do? It doesn't really change a lot of things. So ultimately, we have to take into account that people want to do that, and it's okay that they do that. Zen Buddhism is very strong about not trying to do anything. Life in music, if the best music was the music that was over the quickest, the best composers would be the ones that just write one giant crashing chord. Because that would be the end of it, and everybody would be happy because that was the best thing, but it doesn't really work that way. You don't dance so as to arrive somewhere, you dance to dance, and that's what life is. It's just like that. You're not doing something so as to do something else. It's it's a musical thing, and you were meant to participate during the song. And if you want to sit on the wall and wait until that's done, that's your little moment. Its general process is to experience things that are here in life and not worry about this or that, or what's happening here, what's happening there. All the time that exists in the universe is on this one moment. We're not propelled forward by the past like rockets attached to our feet. We write the past in this very moment. Part of taking responsibility for your actions is being aware of the present moment. If you justify that you're this way because your mother dropped you on your head, and she was that way and neurotic because her mother dropped her on her head, and all the way back we go, we can continue justifying why we act like idiots or morons or whatever, and it just doesn't work out. There's just no reason to do that. When you start saying, well, I'm doing this because I'm making this decision now, when you start to realize that that is specifically why you're making this choice, you start taking responsibility for your personal actions in this moment. And that is the cornerstone of what it is to be Zen. You are living in that moment for that time and for nothing else. Because that's the only way that things move forward, is when we ask questions and we do things that are different from the norm.
yargıma